please come. I need you. This is I need you.
Teresa Ann Fielding was born on September 9, 1965, in San Diego, California. Her parents were Claire and William Fielding, and she had 4 siblings: Hilda, Jerry, Richard, and Christina, the youngest of them all. Teresa was always very close to her younger sister, Christina. However, this closeness didn't diminish the love she felt for the rest of her family. She always put them first. As an adult, she was known for her kindness and social skills, which became her trademark. She ended up working as a telephone operator for the Lafayette Police Department in Louisiana. At that time, Christina also lived nearby with her husband and children. The sisters highly valued staying in constant contact. Teresa excelled in her job, and by September 1992, she became a supervisor at the Walker County Emergency Services Center in Georgia.
Hey, this is Teresa.
It's possible that Teresa knew Samuel Logan Parker, a police officer working around that time. It's known that he grew up in Walker County, Georgia, just like Teresa. He had a brother, Kenneth, with whom he enjoyed hunting and fishing in the nearby forests. When Samuel joined the Marines, his brother Kenneth followed suit. Later, he followed Samuel's footsteps and joined the police department. Kenneth mentioned that being a cop meant everything to his older brother. Samuel never considered taking a break from his job. Samuel always loved exploring nature, knowing every nook of those places. In the 80s, he married Kayla Bird. In 1989, shortly after returning to work at the Lafayette Police Department, Kayla revealed to her friends that he had assaulted her and threatened her life while on duty. A friend of Kayla's, married to a councilman named Max Morrison, told him about what had happened with the police officer. Max, concerned, spoke to the police chief, Dino Richardson, and the city manager, David Ulrich, about the officer's behavior. However, neither of them ever addressed the issue with the officer. Kayla had another terrible incident with Samuel after asking him about a conversation he had with a saleswoman. Her simple question unleashed her husband's fury. He grabbed her by the hair, dragged her through broken glass to the bedroom, and handcuffed her to the bedpost. Exhausted, Kayla found the courage to leave, but it didn't stop the violence. It seemed to worsen. Samuel used a key to enter her new home without permission and accused her of misbehaving with other men. Then, he pinned her down on the couch and grabbed her neck while pointing his revolver at Kayla's head. Not satisfied with that, he threatened to shoot her. Luckily, Kayla survived the ferocious attack. However, Samuel made it clear that if she said anything, he would finish what he started and nobody would find her body. This violent man, with a uniform and a legal gun, started courting Teresa without her knowing about his turbulent past. It seems Teresa didn't know who Samuel truly was because she fell for him due to his attentiveness. Samuel, on his part, told Kenneth that he was enchanted by Teresa. When Christina met her sister's boyfriend, she thought he was fun and seemed like a gentleman, the right one. With everyone's approval, Samuel and Teresa married on September 11, 1993. Initially, their relationship was like a roller coaster, deeply in love, but sometimes small fights emerged, which they later forgot. In 2002, Samuel was at the peak of his career in the Lafayette Police, but at home, it was a hellish scenario due to his emotional instability. On May 4th of that year, police responded to a disturbance at their home. Samuel, drunk and furious, accused Teresa of infidelity. Samuel's friend, Bruce Coker, who worked at the Walker County Sheriff's Office, arrived and witnessed an unpleasant situation. Samuel was drunk and agitated, and there were women's belongings scattered in the yard. Teresa was crying and had a red mark on her face, but when Bruce asked her what had happened, she said she had scratched her face. After the incident, Teresa decided to spend the night elsewhere. According to Georgia State Code 17, officers must arrest the perpetrator in clear cases of domestic violence, regardless of the victim's statements. Although this law was in place, Samuel's friend Bruce didn't take action. Perhaps he didn't want to ruin his friend's career, but he also said he didn't want Teresa to be a victim. So, the incident went unrecorded and overlooked. In April 2003, the couple went on vacation to northeastern Florida. On Sunday, the 27th, they were at Panama City Beach, a tourist spot with miles of beautiful beaches. It seemed like the perfect destination to leave their problems behind and enjoy their romance. After relaxing on the beach, the couple went to a restaurant to eat, but in the middle of the meal, something happened. Samuel got angry and threatened Teresa with handcuffs, harming himself and even threatening to harm her. When they left, he fired his revolver from the car in the parking lot. Witnesses immediately called the police. When they arrived, They found Teresa crying and very distraught. Samuel, completely drunk, was behaving aggressively, although he later admitted to having threatened to take his own life. He denied firing or having a weapon. The police found 2 of Samuel's firearms, one of which appeared to have been recently used. Based on that and his statements, they decided to take him to a mental health facility, although he disagreed. On the way, he boasted to the officers that, due to his police experience, he could hide a body and no one would find it. After 72 hours under observation, he was released to go home with Teresa, but over time, his mental health deteriorated, and he began to consume alcohol problematically. It was no longer about drinking at home or after work. It became constant. Samuel couldn't control his alcohol addiction and started drinking even while on duty. This further affected the peace in their marriage. In April 2006, Teresa sought help from Samuel's colleagues, Dino and Steve Wilson, at the county sheriff's office. In a meeting, she detailed Samuel's erratic behavior, alcohol abuse, threats, and the incident in Florida. Although she didn't want him arrested, she wanted him out of the house. After that, Teresa finally decided to divorce, with the support and listening ear of her sister, Christina. Christina noticed that instead of being sad, Teresa felt immensely relieved. It was the right decision. The following year, Teresa was full of new plans. Teresa was excited about finding a new apartment, preferably close to her sister, Christina. She wanted to spend more time with her nephews. She was still living with Samuel, so getting a new place was crucial. By the spring of March 21, 2007, she was in the process of making a change. She found the place she wanted, and the move gave her a fresh outlook. That night, she visited her sister and talked about her new home. Everything seemed fine, but upon saying goodbye, Christina felt something strange, like an emptiness, she later recounted. Around 10:30 p.m., Teresa called her friend Rhonda Knox from her new apartment. She said she planned to go to the house to collect her things, hoping Samuel would be asleep to avoid problems. Unfortunately, that night, Teresa disappeared, and Samuel was the one who took her. Around 2 a.m. on March 22, Samuel called a fellow officer, Ben Chaffin, from an acquaintance's house. He confessed to having done something to Teresa and threatened to harm Ben if he said anything. Around 5 a.m., Samuel left. In the following hours, Teresa's body disappeared. Investigators believed he might have gone to an area near a river and a trail, about 40 kilometers from Walker County, a place he knew well from his childhood. At 6 a.m., Rhonda received a call from Teresa's number, but it hung up without any communication. Rhonda tried calling Teresa several times, both on her cell and home phones, but there was no answer. Worried, she asked Shane Green, a friend from the sheriff's department, to go to Teresa's house to see if everything was okay. Shortly after, Shane and Corey arrived and knocked on the front door, but there was no response. Using flashlights, they circled the house and saw Samuel's gray truck parked outside the garage. Although the garage doors were closed, Shane peered through a crack with his flashlight and spotted Teresa's patrol car parked inside. However, Teresa's car wasn't there. In the morning, Christina hadn't heard from her sister and thought she might be occupied at her new place. However, by the end of the day, Teresa's truck was back at her house with Samuel, although no one had seen her, and she wasn't answering her phone. Everyone, including her husband, tried to reach her. More than 24 hours had passed, and her sister was worried and anxious.
Call me. I was kind of worried about you.
I called her just over and over and over. She is nowhere to be found.
And again, in an attempt to divert any suspicion towards him, Samuel persisted in trying to contact her.
Teresa, this is Sam. It's Friday about 3 o'clock. Just wondering about you, where you are.
On Friday, March 23rd in the morning, the sense of emptiness inside Christina had returned.
You don't want to think the worst, but I mean, you do.
On Saturday, March 24th, 2007, Teresa's family alerted the police. Neighbors and friends rallied, held vigils, and posted flyers seeking information about her. Sheriff Steve, knowing the case was personal, contacted the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent James Harris went to Teresa's new apartment but only found some of her belongings, such as clothes and her work uniform. The community was deeply concerned. Hundreds joined the search alongside the police. They combed through ponds and the local landfill. The challenge lay in the vastness of the nearby woods, which were extensive and difficult to search. Concurrently, Special Agent James decided to interview Samuel. The husband believed Teresa had simply left on her own because they were divorcing. Nonetheless, in his account, some details didn't align with the timeline. Something very subtle, but enough to raise suspicions for James.
She's a missing person, and I don't know where she is.
Authorities searched Samuel's house 5 times. They found some old weapons, but didn't believe they were related to the disappearance. Samuel was upset. He questioned why they thought he was involved and why they weren't investigating Teresa's belongings more thoroughly. To gather evidence against him, they used scent dogs to track Samuel's smell. The dogs led them uphill, suggesting Samuel had gone in that direction. He kept insisting Teresa had left and accused the agents of jumping to conclusions about her possible demise, which he claimed lacked basis. Surprisingly, Ben never mentioned the call from March 22nd. The team didn't solely focus on Samuel. They were also exploring other individuals for answers regarding the mysterious disappearance. Months passed without answers. While delving deeper into Samuel's background, evidence increasingly pointed toward him. Another search of the couple's house revealed possible traces of blood, and the car appeared to have been meticulously cleaned. Meanwhile, Samuel faced legal troubles and was dismissed from the police department for having explosives in his locker after 25 years of service. This displayed his lack of control and disrespect for his job. Forensic evidence finally confirmed Teresa's blood and Samuel's DNA in the back of his truck. On February 4, 2008, he was arrested and charged with taking his wife's life. He kept insisting she might have gone to Florida or crossed the border. Though lacking the body as evidence, the trial began on August 17, 2009. Evidence of 2 domestic violence incidents between the couple was allowed. Samuel remained silent during the trial, and his defense centered on the idea that Teresa might still be alive. Kayla recounted her harrowing marriage story when on the stand. Max testified that he reported Samuel's abuse to the police chief but was dismissed, being told it was a matter between the couple. To everyone's surprise, Ben finally revealed the call and Samuel's threats. During the trial, several witnesses claimed Samuel boasted about knowing the local woods well enough to hide a body. Prosecutors presented a series of events that indicated how he might have made Teresa disappear. Defense attorneys argued there was no direct evidence of harm to Teresa or connecting her husband to her disappearance. In September 2009, Samuel was found guilty of intentional homicide, lying, and violating his oath as a public official. He was sentenced to life in prison. Despite Teresa's family being devastated, Christina believed he might hold the key to finding Teresa. Despite the sentence, Samuel never admitted to the facts or provided closure the family needed. He filed an appeal for a new trial, claiming the evidence was insufficient. However, life had a surprise in store that would alter his argument about alleged injustice. 3 years after Teresa's disappearance, a farmer made a startling discovery while resting by a river: human remains. A broader search ensued, uncovering more remains. Investigators halted the search at nightfall, continuing the next day, discovering more bones and additional clothing. Simultaneously, in a completely different area, they continued searching for Teresa's body. This search was unrelated to the new findings but part of the ongoing investigation. The site was quite distant from where the remains were found, prompting criticism toward investigators for not having previously tracked that area. Discontent arose because, were it not for the farmer finding the remains, they might never have been discovered. Returning to the discovery site, experts confirmed Teresa's identity by matching the jawbone with her dental records. They confirmed she had never left Georgia. They couldn't determine exactly how her body ended up there, whether it was the original site where Samuel left it, or if it had been moved by the river. Exposure to the elements for such a long time made it impossible to determine the cause of her death. On the night of Tuesday, September 21, 2009, various law enforcement agencies and Teresa's family began coordinating. Everyone felt it was a necessary closure after the lengthy search. The following day at noon, Sheriff Steve announced a press conference held between 3 and 5 p.m. In front of Walker County Courthouse. Local media reporters gathered to capture the anticipated announcement. Despite battling cancer, Sheriff Steve spoke firmly from the podium, accompanied by other significant officials.
It's a day that it's difficult to report, but it's also a day I think that the family can somehow receive and put some closure with it. Not only the family, but her friends, her coworkers, and also the people behind me that have worked on this investigation. and the people to my right that have worked on this investigation for 3.5 years.
After his 15-minute speech, Steve fielded questions from reporters. He discussed the relentless search for Teresa, and Jerry addressed rumors spread by Samuel suggesting Teresa had left the country. He also emphasized the jury's just decision in Samuel's conviction. Officials expressed relief at being able to give Teresa a proper burial. Even those who had defended Samuel had to concede that the recent events were not in his favor. There were criticisms regarding the time it took to close the case. Some pointed out that searches were limited to certain areas and didn't explore other crucial zones. Georgia's Bureau of Investigation confirmed Teresa's death as a homicide, but didn't identify the specific cause. While there was mention of a possible hole in her skull, it was later ruled out as a gunshot. The new details did not aid Samuel's appeal. The verdict remained unchanged, and family members gathered at the Walker County Civic Center. The ceremony was moving, bringing together friends and loved ones to bid farewell to Teresa. The following day, a mass was held at the First Baptist Church Lafayette as part of her funeral services on Saturday, October 9, 2010. Steve was among the attendees. Meanwhile, 14 months after Samuel began his life sentence in Georgia State Prison, he agreed to an exclusive interview with a local media outlet.
Did you feel like you were doing everything in your power to help find Teresa?
I thought I was. But, I mean, when it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of like the sinking of the Titanic, I guess. I want to help you, but they're after me, and I've got to help me, you know, and they did not take their eyes off of me.
He fought to prove his innocence, criticized the evidence against him, and accused the prosecutors of painting a distorted image of him. However, in November 2014, the state Supreme Court upheld his conviction. Teresa Parker's family will always miss her. She was pivotal in their lives. Knowing the perpetrator would be behind bars brought them relief, preventing harm to other women. They pledged to raise awareness about domestic violence in Teresa's memory, urging proactive measures to prevent further tragedies. That's all for today. I'd love to hear your opinion, but please remember to express it with respect towards the victim and her family. We can discuss while maintaining mutual respect. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed. Good night.